Another video at Green Aqua again. What am I doing? As you've seen in the title, what's going to be the title?
We don't know yet.
Today's video is about the outcasts. The plants that nobody wants because they melt, because they die off, because they never survive. You need to have dry start methods, etc., etc. It's the hardest plants at Green Aqua. We are making our own lives more difficult to entertain you guys, but you'll see what's gonna happen. Welcome to the beautiful world of aquascaping. But the good news is that you're gonna follow my struggles in the next weeks. Don't worry, we're gonna finish it up in this video. So you will see the end result. You have to know that all these difficult plants, by the time that they establish themselves in the aquarium, they are perfectly fine. You can comment below whether you actually manage to keep these plants without any issues. Lucky you, but you know, we're trying to base this selection on the reports that we get back. And while we're talking about difficult plants, I wanted to choose something which is considered difficult hardscape. Why do I say that these are difficult? Because they harden the water. So they leach a lot of calcium into the water, hardening the water. I'm really happy to introduce actually the ADA Layout material, Kumu, which is coming directly from Japan. You will see the B-rolls, actually you see the B-rolls now that are showing how beautiful these layout materials are and how much variety they provide. I wanted to choose the Pagoda stones that are featured right here. Firstly, because I love the look of the buff layer stone, which is very similar to the Pagoda stone except it's smaller. These ones need to be remineralized with the GH+. It doesn't need the remineralization with the GH/KH+. The other problem with using light hardscape is that when it gets covered by algae, you need to scrape it off and it changes color, so this is more difficult to keep clean at the beginning of a life cycle of the tank. The whole idea, inspiration for me to do an aquarium with difficult plants came from Carlos Souza from Brazil. He had used similar plants and had used actually similar rocks. My idea is that this line here, starting from the front glass, will lead the eye up to the back. So this is going to be a valley, a V-shape, opening up the scape. But right now, I would need to construct the foreground first. I just close the gap with the dragonstone. It has similar color. It does nothing to the layout. And I fill up the space with some fine filter mesh so that the soil is not rolling forward. The next step would be the ADA power sand. I really want to have a very stable ecosystem. And after that, I'm going to pour in the ADA Aquasoil Amazonia version 2. And then I can move on to continue building the second layer towards the back. This would look great here. I told you, Impa glue is needed. This will not hold it. The pressure is just too much. Okay, so what do you do, Balázs? Are you going to take up the Impa glue? No, of course not. Did you hurt the glass? Yes, of course you did. This is in place now, and I should probably be brave enough to close this gap completely and raise the soil all the way here. Now we have a second part to make. So my goal is to do something on this side right now. Is this organic or what? I think it is. I find the right stone. Ta-da! The only issue is that there's no graduation between this and this. pretty flat, so I still need to work on it. There's no place of interest. Let's start with the ivory sand and the ivory sand S. And I'm going to mix these two. Hazel gravel S and hazel gravel. All right, so this is ready. Let's mess it up with plants. This fern is one of my favorite, but sometimes we have issues with that. If the conditions, the water parameters and other conditions are not right, then you can just lose this plant within a couple of weeks. Rotala indica bonsai, that is the next one. The next one, which is on our list, is the Blixa japonica, very fragile plants. When you take it with the tweezers, try to push it into the soil, this can really break and die off easily. Bucephalandra micrantha needle leaf, we just call it Bucephalandra mini needle leaf, that sometimes just disappears, melts. Pogostemon helferi. It's also very fragile plant. This one can also melt. Sterogyne repens, which is a bigger leafed plant. If left to grow leggy because of lack of light, for example, the bottom part can just, the leaves it can shed the leaves at the bottom part of the plant. The next one is the Eleucharis montevidensis. We lose these plants before we even plant them in aquariums. Then if you break it like this is broken, then this whole leaf will die off, so you're not going to be able to keep it. I will plant this whole thing in a line near the side glass. Glossostigma. Okay, that is not a difficult plant, but it's being brought in because of the Utricularia graminifolia, which is the carnivorous plants that always melt. I start tearing it away. What is this? How can you use this? How can you plant it? Make smaller bunches. This is so not going to survive, guys. What I'm going to do, because I start to hate my life right now because of the Utricularia, is that I'm going to take the glosso now. I'm going to plant the glosso, just plant a couple of Utricularias in the middle. They are going to die, and then when the glosso starts to thrive, I'm going to introduce some more Utricularia later to see what's happening, and then you guys are going to see which one worked in our particular case. Again, these plants are difficult plants in our own view. This is based on our own experience and the experience of local customers. And we have CO2 injection, strong lighting, we have everything in order. And if you go in and visit our website, the greenaqua.com website, and you live in Europe, you can talk and chat to the AI scaper. It has a really deep knowledge on all the difficult plants, on all the hardscape, all the water parameters that these plants would need to survive and to establish well. But this layout is far from ready, but this is where we stop today, and I'll get back to you in a second, which is going to be 1 week for me, and we're going to tweak it some more. Let's see what survived and what needs improvement. 1 week later and everything is fine. Or not? What is happening? Check this out. This has collapsed totally. It's a complete disaster. The plants are floating on the top. Okay, now it's in place and it's pushing the soil backwards. Okay, this is the first day, guys. So I told you that I'm going to come back in a week. No, this is the first day. Okay, but it's fixed. Now I'm gonna get into planting back all the floating plants and making that mesh disappear over there. That video segment that you just saw, I fixed it in like 2 minutes. I did nothing else with it. I wanted to see and wait what's happening. Well, we've got quite a few disasters happening here. First of all, the Bucephalandra is melting, most of it, except this one here. That one is okay. The Eleucharis on the right side has melted. On the left side, it's perfectly fine. The Amania bonsai in the back has completely disappeared. No, actually, I see some Amania bonsai in the middle, which is fine. The Pogostemon is okay, the Glosso is okay. I see 0 carnivore plants, Utricularia. One patch in the middle has survived, completely disappeared from everywhere else. The ferns are doing fine, Sterogyne doing fine, Blixa japonica is doing fine. I think half of the plants are fine, the other half are not. I don't know why. We're gonna change water, we're gonna introduce some more plants. I'm going to twig it and we'll see what's happening. So see you in a couple of days. 2 weeks have passed by since I set up this aquarium, and I'm happy to announce that the issues are no longer present. That's not true. We have all the issues still present, but the aquarium has survived the first shock. As I told you before, some plants have melted, but we replanted them. So what you can see now is that all the Bucephalandras are new, and they seem to survive now. They were replanted into the aquarium a couple of days ago. That's okay. I can see the first signs of diatoms, which are not the most dangerous algae, so we're not really afraid. I asked the team members to test the water, and I'm just going to tell you what we have here. We have GH4, which is a bit too low, but we have KH3, which is only 1 point lower than 1 degree lower than GH, and it should be the difference between the two should be 2. So I would want to increase the GH to at least 5 or 6, and I will keep the KH at 3. And why do we have the higher KH? Because we have lots of carbonates leaching out of these white rocks here. And because we have the higher KH, the pH did not crash. We have a pH of 7. The silicates, however, are 3. So we have very high silicates, and that is something that can cause diatom algae, as you can see here on the Sterogyne in the front. We measured the reverse osmosis system, which does not really touch silicates, and we found that the RO system has 1.5. So I think that the difference comes from the rocks as well. So these rocks will leach some silicates into the water. Hopefully when the porous surface of the rocks will clog a little bit, it will not leach as much. So this whole ecosystem should stabilize in the long run. Let's see what's happening with the plant health. All the plants that we reintroduced are doing fine. Even the Utricularia, Eleocharis montevidensis, didn't survive on the right side, and this is the replanted one actually. And I'm happy to tell you that the Amania bonsai has survived in the back, that was replanted. So all the plants that we planted survived. Let's see what's happening with the Utricularia right now, but we have minor issues. But we're going to correct them with the proper water changes, proper maintenance, replanting what's needed, testing for water parameters, sorting out the issues. And we need to release the fish. So that's what I'm going to do now. At week 2, we are a little bit early, but we have cycled filter media in our great Eheim filter that works underneath this tank. It is a professional 4+ Eheim filter, and it does its job perfectly, and it was cycled before, so you have not the inert filter media in it. So we will introduce some Otocinclus affinis to eat the brown algae. We're going to introduce some snails, the Cliton corona snails, which are going to eat the blackbrush algae, which I see none of, but it will also eat other types of algae, and of course the Amano shrimp. One month has passed by since the build of this layout, and I do think that this turned out to be a success. And why? Because all the hard plants that are visible in this aquarium have survived. So let's take these plants one by one. Eleocharis, okay now on both sides. The second replanting was actually working. So we didn't give up on this side. It's not because the CO2 is here and the circulation is killing. It's not because of anything. It works. Sterogyne repens, looks great. The Utricularia graminifolia is doing great. Bucephalandra types survived. Stem plants in the background now survived, looking great. All the ferns looking ace. Obviously the Glosso is looking ace. So what happened? If you're struggling with hard plants and you think that they will not survive from the beginning, that doesn't mean that they're not going to survive in the long run. So don't give up, introduce them again, because if you do that in a couple of weeks, after a couple of weeks, it's going to be good. About the fish, I introduced 10 tiger Darios, and I thought that 10 of those fish would be enough because they grow a little bit bigger, and in the 64-liter tank I did not want to introduce more fish. But you know, the problem is that the number 10 is just not enough for this layout, and they hide. I see none at the moment. Sometimes they're mostly hiding between the plants in the background. I don't like that, so I want to introduce something that we jokingly call pulling fish into this aquarium, and those are the Danio erythromicron. And I'm going to probably use them to pull out the Darios from hiding. And if they see that these guys are more brave, maybe all of them will hide. So we introduced 20 of them, which together with the Darios are going to be 30 fish plus the edge eaters, which is probably too much for this aquarium. But as they grow and they get bolder, we're going to probably take out some of them and put them in another tank. But I think that it's going in a good direction, and it's going to be hopefully a very good small jewel in the Green Aqua gallery. And with that, we conclude this video, which was shot for a month, and I thank you for your attention, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.